Greetings, everyone. Peace to you all.
Cal Kestis. Welcome to Jedi.
Welcome to another episode of Praiseworthy Reviews, where we go through video games to see if they're excellent and commendable. Today we'll be reviewing Star Wars Jedi Survivor,
A Jedi.
the sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order by Respawn Entertainment. As usual, we'll be evaluating the game based on 5 criteria: fun factor, educational value, cultural value, spiritual value, and cost. For context, I am a Star Wars fan, having watched the original and prequel trilogies, Clone Wars, Rebels, The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan. Prior to this review, I have played Fallen Order, read the novel that takes place in between the games, Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars, and I finished the game to the credits. Because of the controversies surrounding the technical state of the game, I want to especially state that all of the footage was recorded prior to the PC Patch 9 update that removed de novo and supposedly optimized the game for the PS4 launch. But I tested again after the patch to include that in the review, which I will discuss in the cost section. I also want to state that this review assumes that you have played Fallen Order and will make gameplay and story comparisons and references to the first game. So if you have not played Fallen Order, my personal recommendation is that you just go and purchase and play that first. So without further ado, let's jump in. Star Wars Jedi Survivor continues the story of Jedi Knight Cal Kestis and his adventures against the Empire. It features the same core gameplay mechanics as Fallen Order: exploration, puzzles, platforming, and combat, but it attempts to improve and expand them, which I think it generally succeeds in doing. There are 3 main areas to explore: Koboh, Jedha, and the Shattered Moon, plus the introductory area of Coruscant. Exploration generally yields the same rewards as before: stim packs, cosmetics, and force and life essence upgrades. They introduced a new type of upgrade called perks, which kind of function like accessories or charm slots in other games, but honestly, I barely noticed it. Of these rewards, I want to say that I actually enjoyed the cosmetic rewards more this time around. Not the BD1 or Mantis ones, but the outfits for Cal. In Fallen Order, the poncho kind of covered everything and made it all look the same, but in Jedi Survivor, I liked the variety of outfits, as well as the different haircuts for Cal. Coruscant, Jedha, and the Shattered Moon were all interesting locations, but the open areas of Koboh were bland. There were actually a lot of areas in Koboh that I liked, which I don't want to spoil, but the open areas felt uninteresting and laggy. Platforming continues where Fallen Order left off, with Cal wall running, Jedi flipping, force pushing and pulling things to get around. A few new force powers are introduced as well, such as using the force to move things up and down. While I was worried it would be just the same as the first game, Jedi Survivor introduces several new aspects to platforming, like the grappling hook ascension cable, a force dash, and some Night Sister powers, all of which must be used in increasingly longer platforming sequences. These sequences are both challenging and fun, and I think platforming is a great part of the game. Partners like Bode and Marin are also introduced for platforming and combat, but honestly, I liked it more for role-playing reasons than actual gameplay ones. Lightsaber combat is of course the main gameplay element, and this aspect does not disappoint. Like the first game, the combat is based on a Souls-like experience, with the usual variety of attacks, dodges, parries, and force powers. Jedi Survivor extends the gameplay from the original by introducing some new force powers, such as confusion and Jedi mind tricks. For me though, the thing I truly enjoyed was the addition of several new lightsaber stances. In the first game, you could only use the single and double blade stances. Jedi Survivor introduces the dual wield, blaster, and crossguard stances, which can make Cal's combat techniques feel quite different. While I actually enjoyed the single blade stance, I spent most of the game dual wielding because it was a new and interesting experience compared to the original. Boss fights are not particularly memorable from a gameplay perspective, but from a coolness factor, it is still quite entertaining to take down Jedi turned to the dark side, or even lightsaber wielding bounty hunters. Basically, I think that Jedi Survivor succeeds in maintaining the gameplay identity of the original game while keeping things fresh by introducing new and interesting mechanics. Overall, I'm going to give Jedi Survivor 5 stars for fun factor, because if you enjoy the gameplay of the first game, you will enjoy this one. There's not a lot of factual things you can learn from a Star Wars game. It is, after all, soft science fiction, so there's not a lot about the real world to learn.
I wonder what spammels eat. What do you eat, Beast?
As far as motor skills are concerned, the combat difficulty is comparable to the first game, with maybe a few bosses that are more difficult and a few group encounters that can feel somewhat frustrating. The one thing that I personally felt has improved in terms of educational value are the puzzles. In Jedi Survivor, the puzzles felt more clever and had more interesting mechanics than Fallen Order. Most puzzles are no longer only centered around pushing and pulling things. Instead, they utilize new mechanics integrated with pushing and pulling things. While that may seem only like a minor improvement, overall, I found the puzzles much more clever than the first game. I especially enjoyed the optional High Republic chambers. The puzzles felt weird and original, and required you to interact with unusual elements, while still being very Star Wars. Overall, I'm going to give Jedi Survivor 4 stars for educational value, because of the improvement in the puzzles. As far as the cultural value is concerned, there are a lot of great sci-fi planetary landscapes that are quite breathtaking. Animations for combat and lightsaber sequences are exactly what you would want them to be. But outside of that, there's nothing particularly interesting to note. Much of the art and animation is marred by frame drops and even the occasional weird visual bugs. The music was generally good, although there were some weird tracks in Pylon Saloon. I did enjoy some of the music in key action sequences or dramatic moments. Voice acting is generally strong, and Cameron Monaghan is able to convey the emotional nuance needed for this entry's story.
It would mean leaving the fight. And the fight is all I know.
Some have claimed that some plot developments were obvious, but I disagree. The setting was also a good choice. To my surprise, the High Republic aspects of the story were actually well done. Unfortunately, I think that without reading the novel Battle Scars, it is difficult to understand the character development of Seer, Grease, and Marin, and how Cal's team disbanded. Even so, I thought the story was very well done, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I know you all had your reasons for leaving.
According to VG Insights, at time of recording, it's estimated that Jedi Survivor has sold 1.7 million copies on Steam, not including PS5 sales. EA has launched a PS4 version, and Cameron Monaghan has confirmed that there will be a third game. Overall, based on the excellent narrative and graphical issues, I'm going to assign the game 4 stars for cultural value. There is slightly more negative content than the previous game. In addition to the alien and robot dismemberment in Fallen Order, there's now human dismemberment as well. Drinking, while not actively promoted, does feature heavily in the game, since Grease owns a saloon/cantina. There is no real profanity, no nudity, no sexual content, and is generally appropriate for all teenagers. There is a lot of positive, wholesome content in terms of surrogate families and friendships.
Oh, it's been a while. I missed you, kid.
The messages of the game deal with some darker themes, but are generally still positive. For more analysis on the themes of the game, check out my Biblical Themes video for Jedi Survivor. Overall, I'm going to give the game 4 stars for spiritual value. For the time poor, the main story took me approximately 30 hours, including doing some extra things that I enjoyed without being completionist. For the time rich, there's a lot of additional content to do. I wasn't a fan of sprucing up Pylon Saloon, Grease's cantina. I didn't want to look for more people to work there or to plant stuff on the roof. However, I did enjoy the Forestiers, the Bounty Hunters, and the meditation chambers. I also like how the game respects our time even more than before, adding mounts and fast travel into the game in addition to the shortcuts of Fallen Order. However, one serious flaw of the game is the unreasonable time cost in terms of the initial loading screens. Starting up the game feels like it costs minutes of your life for no real reason, and pretty much cancels out any goodwill built from the time saved. Since patch 9, the initial loading screens have been removed, but this actually made things worse for me. This is the only footage recorded after patch 9, and as you can see, textures look worse, and Kobo has gone from occasional frame stuttering to nigh unplayable. At time of recording, Star Wars Jedi Survivor retails for $69.99 USD, which while standard, is completely unreasonable given the game's technical state, but it can regularly be found for about half off. Overall, based on the content value, narrative accessibility, technical state, and asking price, I'm going to have to give Jedi Survivor 3 stars for cost. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, in terms of gameplay and story, is a near-perfect sequel, a game that should have been celebrated for its improvements in the core gameplay mechanics, combat, and platforming.
Welcome to Tanalore.
Its story ventured into the High Republic setting and was able to combine that with both prequel and original trilogy elements to deliver a story that was as good as the first game. Despite these successes, technical issues continue to plague the game, even with patch 9, impacting the cultural value, time cost, and arguably even the fun. If you don't have at least a new mid-tier gaming machine, it may be wiser to wait for better hardware or a lower price to try the game. Based on the criteria discussed in the video, I subjectively assigned Star Wars Jedi Survivor the rating of Genre Gem. That's all I have for you in this video. Bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If this video blessed you in some way, please consider watching some of my other videos, subscribing, or sharing with me some of your thoughts in the comments below.